You have a book.
I do.
It's 340. Four pages.
I guess so. I'm not positive on that. It's funny,
341.
Sarah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
It's funny, Sarah. The other day, I was going to. We were doing like the Valentine's Day thing, you know, and we're not big on like Valentine's anniversary. It's like, like you know, I love you, babe. You know, you get it. But I went to get her a Valentine's card at the grocery store. I was with Rourke, and I went to ring up a thing of bananas and 2 Valentine's cards, and it was going to be $23. And I was like, what? The cards were like $8 a pop, so I decided not to do that. And she was like, hey, babe, I have your Valentine's card. And I was like, yeah, I didn't get you one. So they were like $8, and she was kind of kidding around. And I was like, hey, I wrote you a 344-page Valentine, so yeah.
Better. Nicely done.
You should have gotten the bananas.
Yes. Well played.
Yeah.
Haley told me this year as Valentine's Day approached, that was really, really nice what you wrote to me last year.
Like, that's why I didn't change it.
I don't even remember what I wrote. Yeah, I wouldn't spend $8 on a card either.
No.
Not because I think of myself as cheap, but I just think I don't do flowers either. I would buy someone a plant.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but I don't do cut flowers.
My husband buys me orchids every year, and every year I kill them.
Yeah.
But at least
not on purpose.
At least it has the potential to be alive.
Yeah.
It's correct. Yes.
It was alive at one point.
The cut flowers just seem like a waste to me.
Why?
Yeah.
It's a nice gesture.
Yeah, my wife digs the flower thing, and so does Mila, my daughter. So like a year ago, last year, little boy at her preschool gave her like a dandelion. I could tell she kind of dug it. And I was like, no. I said, Dad is going to knock your socks off. You get ready. And she was like, no, you're not. And I was like, oh, you get ready. And I got her a big bouquet, and she just,
wow.
Yeah. I was like, I crushed that little guy. He thinks he's going to step in here. Are you kidding me?
And it's a nice gesture. Is that what you said?
I think so.
It's a waste. Get something that's in dirt.
I'm sure there's plenty of things that you do throughout the day that are a waste that you do repeatedly on a daily basis.
Touche. All of us do.
Matt's already spoken more in this show than he has the last 3 shows combined.
That workout made me salty. I'm in a bad mood now. I didn't like the double unders.
Eric Maciel engineering the show.
Master engineer.
Matt Bischel sitting in the schoolboy seat because Andréa Cecil refused to take it.
I'm sorry, but my argument is that I'm the biggest person in the room, so I feel like I need to.
That's your statement.
I can't argue against that. I'm not very big.
I wish I was bigger.
Matt Bischel runs CrossFit HQ social media. Chris Spealler is here, author of the new book. No, that's my book.
What could the name of it be?
Author of the new book Speal, a David and Goliath story.
With a huge amount of help from Andrea.
And Andréa Cecil is here, the head writer for the CrossFit Journal and the. What do you call yourself on this book?
I don't know. What do I call myself?
I would
You're
say
whiff.
like
It's
you
whiff.
are the ultimate editor. Is it a co-author? I don't know. I feel like I wrote it and then you took it and made it sound like I was good at writing. Right? And then you would ask me questions and be like, hey, elaborate on this and let me know more about that. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's
Chris
kinda...
definitely wrote it. Roy was giving me a hard time one time, and he was like, did Chris really write it? I was like, yes, he really wrote it.
But then,
Wow.
but everything would go back to
Yes.
Andrea, and she would make it, grammar specific. You guys can tell.
And ask a lot of
even by
questions.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff.
which is good, though.
Yeah.
Because I think as someone that's in it, you kind of forget what people might want to know.
Right.
So it's good to have outsider perspective.
Yeah. I was able to add some details for events that I was at where I had a different perspective than he did, like 2012 Southwest Regional.
Were you ever like, hey, you shouldn't say that about your wife?
I don't think so.
There was nothing.
Yeah, I think that
there was nothing like that.
Yeah, we were good.
Yeah.
Couple house cleaning things before we get into this 341 pages. I have, by the way, more notes than I've ever taken on any guest here.
Let me ask you this: did you actually read the whole thing?
I did.
Impressed.
I'm floored.
And I paged all the, you know what I mean? Like it says page 3.
You read it pretty quick too.
Wow.
Well, I was up all night last night.
I'm waiting for it to come out on Audible.
I know.
I'm an audiobook guy.
I get it. Me too.
My wife walked by me last night and she goes, I can't believe you're reading and not listening to it on blah, blah, blah. I just gave her the finger.
Like, I'll tell you why I'm not, because it's not available there yet.
A little house cleaning here. We have a video contest. We have 3 video contests.
Oh.
First prize for all of them is $10,000, meaning we're giving away $30,000. I'd actually make one video and enter it in all 3. One of the contests is you can't.
They can't do that.
Why not?
Because they're country specific.
I know, but you could make one. There's a Brazil one. There's a Mexico one, and that could be on any topic that comes out of an affiliate. And then there's a worldwide video contest that's about people with type 2 diabetes in the affiliate, like stories of people who have type 2 diabetes who do CrossFit. And what if you were in Brazil? And you did you couldn't answer.
I think you could get 2 potentially.
2, yeah.
Yeah, 2.
Do a story of someone who has type 2 diabetes in an affiliate in Brazil. You clean up, make $20,000.
It's great.
There you go. I can't do that because I don't have an affiliate in Brazil with someone doing CrossFit with type 2 diabetes.
Right.
But somebody does.
Yes. I wanted to do a quick. I was watching the update show because the Open's starting and the update show is like fired up and just like ready to go. And I watched the first one and it's Sean Woodland and I think Tommy Marquez talking about how the regionals are split up this year. Have you guys seen that show?
I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
I think I saw a highlight of it.
Holy shit. Like it's not, you need paper and pencil to understand. Like, so I was thinking like we should come up with our own manual of how the regionals work.
Kind of like a how-to.
Yeah, like, do you want to see Josh Bridges with his shirt off? Go to the West Region.
You know, a way to hack the regionals.
Yeah, just like
a dummy's guide to
like that's
the
how,
CrossFit regional events.
Do you want to see Josh Bridges celebrate? Go to the California Regional. You know what I mean? Do you want to see Dan Bailey implode and shed a tear? Go to the
come on, Dan. You made so much progress getting in good graces with Dan, and you just pissed it all away.
Do you want to see? Camille take first place before she pulls out of the CrossFit Games?
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
Brutal.
What? These are brutal.
These are hitting stride right now.
Brutal.
You never pulled out of the CrossFit Games.
I didn't.
And when you read your book, man, it's like at 140, 150 pounds, when you have 225 pounds that you're basically carrying around all day, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy you never pulled out.
I guess so.
Right?
I don't know. I never got like
You never got
really
injured, but it's a
hurt.
beat down.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you got to prepare for that.
I feel like back then, I can't stand that term, but for lack of a better term, back then, it wasn't really in the mentality.
Have any men pulled
Right.
out? I don't want to get any sexist things. This is just a question. Have
No,
your
well,
words.
Mikko popped his eardrum in 2011.
Yeah.
Rob Orlando.
Yeah,
So he
Rob
couldn't.
Orlando
Rob
too.
Orlando.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so like stuff's
It happens.
happened for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think most by far any athlete at the CrossFit Games, like they don't want to pull out. You know, I think anybody that's happened probably has a little bit longer term vision, and they're thinking, okay, you know, like if I do this now, I might not be able to come back next year. But if I actually am smart about it, I could make another run next year. So I would argue that most of the people that are pulling out, it's probably because they have a good head on their shoulders and they're looking longer term.
Like Cara Webb, Annie Thorisdottir.
I think so.
I think
Yeah.
has Annie pulled out twice?
I don't know.
I think she has.
At the games or
At
mid-season?
the games. At the games.
There's a difference, I think, between like
I think
pulling out of the
once.
games because of an injury or just like quitting because it's hard.
I don't think
I
I've
don't
ever
think
seen
anybody's
anyone
ever done
pull.
that.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never seen anyone do that.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, I think Camille and Annie and Cara had significant injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Dr. Rocket was here, and he said it's something that they had, like, it's a big responsibility, you know. Can you let this person go back onto the playing field knowing that they could potentially injure themselves? Like, there's more at play than just, like, whether or not you want to go out and compete anymore. There's more there.
Why did you write a book?
I mean, it's funny. I was expecting that question. I almost forget. Like it was so long. I remember after the 2014 games, like thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andréa, but I remember thinking about it and approaching you because I was like, I wanted to, and I don't even remember why I wanted to be honest. I right now when I look at it, I'm really glad that I did for a couple of reasons. One, I think that CrossFit's grown a ton. And I think it's a really cool historical account of where it's come from, at least from my lens. And then two, my kids are young enough that they'll barely remember maybe being at the CrossFit Games this past year, which is a very, very different experience than the individual. So to give them an account of Dad and what he did, I think is really cool. So those things are, when I look at it now, and it's just cool to give the CrossFit community a glimpse into, it's essentially like a written version of behind the scenes mixed in with a lot of answering the questions of, hey, Chris, why do you do what you do? And, how did you get so mentally tough? And I try to answer that question just through like my story. Yeah. But I think I remember where I was calling you and being like, hey, I'm interested in writing a book.
You had actually someone, I don't know if another writer approached you, or you were asking me about a different writer.
That is.
Yeah, who freelanced for us. They will remain nameless.
Yes, I do remember that now.
And I asked a couple of the girls in here, and then I asked Mike about him.
Maybe that's how I got started.
And long story short, I said, it was funny actually. I said, I can help you if you want. And I think he interpreted that at first as like, I can help you find someone. And then after that, I was like, no, what I mean is I can help you write the book.
Yeah. Oh, that's better.
And then
so someone approached you and they said, hey,
I think so. Now it's kind of coming back.
You need a book.
I think they offered to help co-write it with me.
And then you're like,
because I think at the time, Rich had written one. I don't know if anybody else had, because this was 2014, like right after the games.
So if no one bought the book, you'd be fine because it's still something that Rourke and Mila could see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really expensive way to give them an account.
Yes, it is.
But it's cool. I mean, I'm down with that. I'm cool.
I would have no regrets at all. And two, because it took us 3 years to write, once we got the final copy and I reread it to make sure that everything was good to go, I thought, oh my gosh, like I did all this stuff and these were all experiences. So if ever I start to forget, I can just crack open my book. And
how did you remember all the stuff in here? There's some details in here that I'm like, man, he must have gone back and watched my behind the scenes.
It was a lot of it. A lot of it was Andréa, and that's like what was helpful is her saying, well, hey, either some of the accounts that she remembered from articles that she wrote, or even just starting those conversations would drum up a lot of memories, which was really helpful.
You didn't go back and watch the 9-hour version of the behind the scenes 2009 before you wrote this?
I did not.
Holy shit! I could have swore. I thought that was a slam dunk.
Exact account.
Who took this photo?
Oh my gosh, that photo came from somewhere. I think here in HQ. I had that in my file. I had that in a file somewhere. That's from the 2010 CrossFit Games.
Don't you have to get this like cleared or something?
Yeah,
I thought it was like your I thought it was like a personal photo.
I had that in my file.
Remember?
That's a good route to take.
Look how big that rope looks in your hand.
I forget. That was honestly one of the hardest parts about this was exactly what you're talking about, was finding a picture we wanted to use that we had the rights to. And I remember like we went through probably 2 or 3 iterations that we were like, okay, we think this is it, but then I didn't know if it was I couldn't find out who actually took the picture and when it was. So yeah, but my wife took that picture. I don't know.
Oh, good answer.
No,
see that?
Because she's a photographer.
That's all you have to say. Yeah. Family got it out of the photo album.
3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it.
There you go.
So the one is we had to find a photo that was high resolution enough, and then second we had to have the rights to it. So the first picture we approved actually was just of Chris, like kind of like waist up, I think, just sitting there with his arms crossed, which was fine, but we couldn't find the original photographer. It was high res enough, but we couldn't track him down. Yeah. And so next round was, I think, Reebok offered some photos.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And is that it?
Hey, look at that.
Is that on the Rogue site? Where is that?
I don't know. Where is it?
Canmore?
Well, I didn't get it from them.
Good luck explaining that. Good luck explaining that in court. Look, Chris.
Hey, Chris Mason. That's a name from your past, man.
Oh, they got you confused with Chris Spealler?
No, I worked with this guy, Chris Mason. He was he used to write some articles for the Journal, and he's like a Westside Barbell guy. He's in the book. There's, I think, maybe, like briefly, he was like a really big part of that.
Oh, like, I remember him. Page 132.
Weight gaining phase, and there you go.
Yeah, I remember that too. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Family got it out of the photo album. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering, and my wife took it. 3 minutes of floundering,
I learned more in 2 days than I could have imagined.
Level 1.
Chris Spealler says that on page 43. I love that.
Wow. Yeah. Golden State Highway Patrol. Yeah, in Golden, Colorado.
Why did you take your L1? Talk to me like you're talking to Pat Vellner, because he hasn't taken it.
I don't really know Pat Vellner very well, but so I took it when I was you read the book, right? So I was like floundering, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and one of my buddies just straight up called me out, and he asked me what I would want to do, and I said, I'd want to do this stuff called Young Life and open a CrossFit affiliate, and he flat out was like, why don't you? And I was sitting at the kitchen table, and I had no reason why. I had no reason to answer him why I couldn't do it. So I got a credit card with a $5,000 limit, and I didn't have to pay on it for a year. And I bought a plane ticket.
Yeah, what credit card was that?
I was a Citibank. So if you guys are looking to get yourself in some trouble, probably a real high percentage if you don't pay it back. But yeah, so I got it, and I bought a plane ticket, and I bought my level 1, and I flew out there. I mean, it was like, it was just what I wanted to do. I mean, at that point in my life, I had been doing the ski bum thing for 4.5 years or so, and the writing's on the wall. If you guys have never been to like a ski town, or I don't know, I bet Santa Cruz is kind of like that, right? Mm-hmm. Where you get like guys that would just want to surf, and they work at this,
surf and mountain bike,
and they work in the shop, which is awesome. But then you see the guy, and this is okay, but then you see the guy that's 55 that's still in the shop, and some of those guys are happy and they love it because it's the life they want to live, and some of those guys are miserable. And I saw those guys at the shop that I worked at, and it scared me. I thought, I don't want to be like that.
You want to take a shot at your dream?
Yeah, and then you didn't even know. The CrossFit Games didn't even exist when I got my level 1. I just remember thinking this is it. And even when I was in college, because I wrestled in college, and I remember I relied much more on work ethic and engine than I did on technique. And I remember even thinking in college, if there was just a sport where I could outwork someone, I would do really well. And look at that.
And if someone is a aspiring wrestler, if nothing else, you should read this book. There's some. I will get my kid into wrestling, and I will have him read this book. If nothing else, I mean, there are some great wrestling stories in there.
Yeah, really good ones.
And it's interesting that you say outwork, because there is that match you had. I think it was in Pennsylvania against Penn State.
Yeah.
And the guy was beating you 5-2. Yeah. And then you started seeing he was tired, and then you're like,
game on.
I'm just
this Russian kid that's supposed to win, and yeah.
Yeah, he had a Russian name. That's a scary name.
Murat Tomiev. He looked Russian too.
Let me ask you this. This is a total digression. I had no plan on asking you this. In that section, I don't know how wrestling works, but it's like you're going into the third round and you have a chance to speak to your coach before you go in.
Yeah, so at the end of each period, there's 3 periods. At the end, there's generally about a 30-second break before you go back out.
Okay. Yeah. And he tells you, don't shoot in until I tell you.
Yeah.
Issue.
And this is a guy that's
I'm thinking to myself,
third in the world.
And what ends up happening is you don't listen to him, but you end up sounds like from the book, getting in the flow and winning the match on your own accord. But were you really thinking that you were going to listen to his cue? If he just would have said, shoot, Chris, you would have just done it?
Yeah, because he got third in the world. I mean, the guy his name's Kerry Kolot. For those of you guys that are wrestlers, and he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, he's, hands down one of the best wrestlers in the world. So when you're a college kid, you listen to a guy like that. Except I didn't for some reason. I don't know why.
It doesn't sound like you gave him a chance to say it. It sounds like you won before he had a chance to say it.
Yeah, I got a bit anxious. And honestly, the guy, he took a shot on me, which I had to defend and then finish. So that's part of the reason probably why I didn't take a shot. Yeah.
And there's a lot of ups and downs in the book. The book isn't just about Chris Spealler just kicking ass and taking names.
Which is the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about this today too. And I think about this with work now and all this stuff that I do. I was talking with Sherwood on the phone the other day, just life stuff. And it's everything that I've ever set out for, every major goal in my life that I've ever set out for, I've fallen short of. Never have I reached one of those big goals. Never.
how about being a good Christian?
I mean, that's a work in progress, brother. Yeah.
What about being a great father?
Yeah, I feel like if anybody else is a dad, I think that every day at the end of the day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have done that better today.
Well, maybe if you'd gotten the Valentine's Day card, you'd be a great husband.
Right?
I feel short.
Did any part of you regret?
Right there.
Did any part of you regret not getting the card?
No, none.
No.
Zero. Because I'm confident that my wife loves me regardless of a Valentine's card.
It's not the love I was thinking of. Is like I really enjoy giving my wife things, and like when I do that, when I'm like, that's too expensive, I'm not getting that. It's a waste. Then when I'm like, oh, it would have been so nice to give that to her right now.
I don't feel that way with like the card thing. More like if I get her flowers, or if I like Christmas time, like you kind of think it out, or birthday. It's a little bit more well thought out, more planned. That's when I enjoy giving more than just like a card that, come on, like a card. I don't know. They never say what you want them to say. And even if they say nice stuff.
You just cross that shit out and write your own stuff.
Yeah, right?
Hey, baby, I love you and your Lululemons. You want to go lift tomorrow.
That's probably not what mine would say, but hey,
That's what mine would say. Hashtag you're a good mom. I love your oatmeal.
It's awesome.
Did she get you anything?
She's always getting me shit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like this morning I was shaving and a cup of coffee just landed next to me. I was like, I'm just like, holy shit. Yeah.
Huh.
And she says, do you want cream? And I'm like, no, it's perfect. I don't even, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I can't send this back. We've been, it's weird. It's weird. I keep thinking that the parade's going to end. We've been just parading like hardcore Christians through here.
Oh, yeah.
We have been on a roll, huh?
Holy fuck.
Are you trying to say something about us three?
Matthew Bischel,
yeah, dude, we had
Dan Bailey,
Hoff,
yeah.
Paul Farmiga.
I love Aaron Hoff.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Is one of the most genuine human beings you will ever meet. Unapologetic. He's a good dude.
He stole Christmas.
Yeah.
When he was sitting here during the show, I was right here and he was here, and he was like, he's substantially larger than you, but he kept like. He had his hand on his leg, and I just couldn't stop looking at how big his hands were.
Yeah, I don't.
Like I went up and sized him laterwards, and it was like a full hand bigger.
His
than my own
head, and he'll kill me because we always make fun of
his
how
head is
gigantic
huge.
his dome is. We were gonna invent something, and no, we've trademarked this. So anybody that's thinking about it, hold off. But we're gonna do the extendo snap because his snapback. We're gonna do like an extender. Like extendo snap, so you guys with gigantic pumpkin heads, you don't have to worry about.
Oh yeah, he does kind of tilt. It's up and back, yeah.
So my son now, because he loves Aaron, and Aaron's just so good with kids, is he'll be like, "Hey, Dad," now he associates like how big he is with his snapback. He's like, "Hey, Dad, I'm at like 2," or "Dad, I'm at 4." Uncle Aaron's at 1. Hanging out by a thread. Look, still
barely.
pinching his skull.
Look at that mug he's
head's
got
gonna
too.
pop.
Funny is
Cutting
that?
off blood flow to his head.
I know.
We had Dan Bailey in here. And the reason why I bring this up with you is I kept the book is really a small section of your life.
That part of it?
No, not the Christian part is a small part, but although it is a small part of the book, it's not like this
overriding
theme. But like I wanted to know how, like when I was looking in the book for how did you become Christian? How did you like?
Well, it's interesting, yeah.
Like, and there's no sign of that in the book. Like, I was like, they called it. Sam Dancer was in here. He called it a Jesus punch.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. So
I'm like,
Andréa and I actually talked about that because that's something that's like a massive part of my life. But I didn't want that to be like a pushy thing, and it was really helpful to get her feedback as I would write on having it be kind of like an undertone of the book, but not overriding. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in a house where like we went to church, not a ton. I guess you could say I grew up in a Christian household, but really for me, like defining moments, I did some stuff with an organization called Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Believe it or not, I went to a golf camp.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah, it was actually pretty amazing. Went down to Florida. It was warm.
As he strokes his
to play golf. It was great. Yeah, look at that. So I did that, but the biggest defining moment was young life. I was like a high school kid, and my dad would always tell me stories about how he went and worked at Young Life Camp, but we didn't have it at my high school. So my dad found a high school close by that they were going to camp in the summer, and I jumped on a bus, 2 buses with 60 kids, and I didn't know a single soul. And I went up to Saranac in upstate New York and experienced just people that were like genuine, awesome people that were on fire for life and on fire for God, and not I think as you grow up like the typical religious stick in the mud. It was far, far from that. They just let kids be where they were. You know, they have like a smoke pit.
Was there a defining
awesome.
moment at that camp that it clicked?
Yeah, I was sitting at so the way they kind of do a Young Life camp is they you know, each night they have this thing called club, and it's this awesome time where you just like it's just crazy. It's fun, just letting kids be kids. But eventually it comes down to this point where one of the speakers has kind of these talks laid out through the course of the 5 or 6 days. And one of them, they talk about, you know, the cross, and they talk about what that means. And then they talk about what Christ has done for us. And then they give kids time to go out and just 15 minutes to like, hey, just go out. And it's at night, and you're at these awesome camps. And this was on a lake in upstate New York, Lake Saranac. And I remember going down to a dock and just sitting on this dock, and my legs were hanging off the side and like my feet hitting the water. And I just remember like having this moment of clarity where really understanding how much of a screw up I am, and really understanding what Christ has done for me and for us, and the fact that it's grace. It's so opposite. It's so opposite from every other perception and every other religion out there, that it was profound, man. And I remember sitting there and just being like, holy crap, just like feeling God's presence and knowing in that moment for me, like, this is real. Like, he wants to have a relationship with me, and I'm in.
How old are you?
15.
And has that moment ever happened again between now and...
Definitely, in the course of me following Christ, have definitely experienced times where I've felt much closer to God, much further away, felt his presence not. And I think that's really normal. I think, you know, for some people... it's not all like lollipops and candy canes all the time.
In the story, in the book, where you mention when you first time you met Andréa Cecil, and you mention that you liked her style, and you felt comfortable. And bear with me here. Feel free to correct me if I'm misquoting you. You talk about basically how sometimes interviews become. You didn't say too personal, but somehow you implied that there was something about interviews that you didn't like that became too personal. Am I understanding that correctly? Like, you didn't like to...
I think
not
so.
referring to her, but just referring to interviews in general.
Yeah, I think so. So when you're in that position and you have people asking you questions and they're going to write a story or an article on you, you want it to be represented well, and you want it to have the tone that you speak with, and you want it to be who you are. And there were Andréa and Heber are the 2 people that I've worked with that I never had a concern about what the finished product would be.
It would represent you accurately.
Yeah, and I think like the tone of the way that they wrote the article, and not just the quotes, right? Like, because when you're being interviewed, you have to realize what I'm saying could be written down and used as a quote. But it was more like the flow and the way she would write and how she would structure it. I was always comfortable with whatever the finished product would be.
Okay, so maybe I misunderstood what was in the book. So it's not that, and I'm going to circle back around to the story you just told.
Yeah.
About 15 years old, being at camp. So it's not that you don't like to share personal stories or that you're guarded of your life. Okay. When you tell this story of your experience at the camp at age 15, are you do you like to tell that story? Do you feel like ever like, oh my God, I don't want to tell that story. Every time I tell it, I lose a little piece of it? Or is it like, hey, I need to tell this story. This is my this will encourage other people to take a step on the path?
I don't ever feel ashamed to say it. I don't ever feel like I lose a piece of it. But I don't want people to think that just because I really feel like a relationship with Christ is this paramount, the most important thing in my life, that I'm going to judge them based on where they are. I think a lot of people have had experiences regardless of what we're talking about. And I think that people that, claim to be religious can be a pretty big stumbling block for people that aren't. And same for Jesus. I mean, if you look in Scripture, the guys that he was arguing with all the time were the most religious leaders of the day. Oh. It's like, I mean, it's just cool to think of it like that. I mean, he's this dude just loving on people, meeting them where they are, and all the guys that were like the religious dudes, they were the ones that were getting in arguments with him. And so I think my concern is I don't want people to ever think that I think less of them or would project anything on them because of maybe experiences they've had in the past with other people.
Right. This picture right here we're looking at, it's from your Instagram.
Yeah.
It may be one of the greatest family photos I've ever seen.
Sarah was like, that's our Christmas card.
Oh
Boom.
my God. Sarah looks amazing there.
She's mega mom. She's awesome.
And you refer to your mom as mega mom.
Yeah, she was maybe to a fault. Yeah.
And you say that she wasn't a good cook.
Not at all.
Has she seen that?
She read the book.
Oh yeah.
She read the book.
Yeah, she knows. Yeah.
She's cool.
She's cool with not being a good cook. She knows.
Balanced. Your mom, you're not a good cook, but you're still one of the greatest moms who ever walked in.
I love you, Mom, but you're not a good cook.
What made her a bad cook? Like
she didn't cook.
Oh, she didn't cook.
I mean, like lean cuisines and, Stouffer's lasagna and walk up to Wendy's and grab a burger and Mountain Dew.
She didn't have a go-to meal? She didn't make like a meatloaf or a...
Didn't she make you peanut butter and jelly?
Oh, she would always make me this. This is my go-to meal before kindergarten. Every day I would have a bowl of tomato soup with a ham sandwich, and I would dip it in the soup.
That sounds delightful.
It was pretty good. And then I would do like the saltines in it, crush the saltines up. But I mean, let's be honest. Is that really cooking, Matt? Technically, I guess it is because
you
you're
gotta heat it up.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I come from a similar generation. It was like all built around the microwave. I had a lot of TV dinners.
Yes.
But yeah,
so it's kind of.
I mean, she wouldn't even do like breakfast for dinner. Well, I guess breakfast was the tomato soup.
You mean like make an omelet for dinner?
Yeah, that's what my
breakfast was like Lucky Charms, right?
Yeah, I had I had the little mini boxes of cereal, the variety pack.
Oh yeah,
I got one every morning.
And the wheat thins were always, or the frosted mini wheats were always the last ones you get eaten.
Oh no, I love those.
Oh, those are the last ones.
I like those frosted flakes.
Chris, have you ever been overweight?
I wouldn't say overweight, but maybe like I'm a little. My perspective's not real good. Maybe a little. I feel like I've been soft in the past.
Since I've known you in the last 10 years.
Yeah. That's my own issue, though. Don't you guys worry. Have you
ever been to a point in your life where you weren't comfortable taking your shirt off? You're like, I don't want anyone really to see this.
No.
Okay, so you never felt overweight.
How much do you weigh right now?
Pretty big. Probably like, man, big day, 144. Big day.
That's coming up on Sevan, Matossian.
Yeah, it's like at night.
For perspective, I weigh about 140.
Yeah. But I'm like a foot shorter.
I'm also too skinny. But
do you feel strong?
Well, yeah. I mean, not maybe in the same way that I used to, but yeah, I feel strong when my body's not hurting.
I ask because I feel strong, but then I look at all your numbers are twice my numbers.
You're still strong.
Some of them are 4 times my numbers.
Which one's 4 times?
Strong.
Like he can do 4 times as many pull-ups as I can.
I guess that's different.
Well,
he can deadlift twice as much.
That's more than just strength. But there's a lot to play there.
But I mean, so think of it like this, and I tell people in our gym this all the time. Like people that just CrossFit, 5 days a week, an hour a day. You forget. You compare yourself to the best people in the world. You forget when you walk in the grocery store, like you are a monster compared to just the average Joe that's walking around in there. Especially like the soccer mom.
I don't forget that. I don't think that. I walk by every person and I go,
I could crush you.
Fitter than you.
I had the same conversation with Sam Dancer. I was like, I work out, 5 days a week. Maybe I'll rest twice, and I feel like that's, not very much. And he's like, well, comparatively.
Not in Santa Cruz
yeah.
County where every other schmo is a CrossFitter. I mean, there's like
We are a little sheltered here.
there's like 60-year-old women here who
Yeah.
are all stronger than me. I mean, it's
Oh, get out of here.
But still, I mean,
Not all of them.
comparatively, right?
yeah. There was a doctor here visiting from Brazil yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
He CrossFits somewhere in Brazil, and he's gonna kill me for forgetting the name of his gym. But anyway, he's showing me workout videos of his 51-year-old mother-in-law. Animal.
Yeah.
Animal.
That's cool.
I was interviewing you one time, and there was this theme. There was 2 separate interviews, but I noticed a theme as I was reading it in your book. I had asked you about a workout, and you said, "Oh, I'm really excited about this workout because there's nothing stopping me." It was like all body weight, so I can just go. And then I remember asking you, "What's the difference between wrestling and CrossFit?" And you said, "In wrestling, someone's trying to stop you from what you're doing,
Yeah.
and in CrossFit, you just go.
Yeah.
You just do your thing." And I thought, oh, that's, there's an interesting transition there. You did a sport that was like one person is like absolutely stopping you from everything you're doing, and the other sport, it's just you. It's all you, all you, all you. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, both are individual sports if you're doing the individual side of CrossFit. I mean, even still kind of like similar. I think a lot of pieces in team competitions are individual and they count toward your team score, But yeah, like think of another sport where someone is like physically hands on you trying to stop you from doing what you want to, and like literally trying to put you in a position where you want to give up. Like there's very few sports that are like that. And
That is the point of wrestling,
jiu-jitsu,
right?
MMA,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's like my goal is to win. And the way you win is by scoring points. And often the way you score points is by getting people out of position. Or if you're going to put someone on their back, it's like you move them in a way they're not supposed to move so that they go there. And no one's like, the barbell's not going to do that. You know, it's like, I just have to go. And it's in a lot of ways, it's easier. But yeah, because it's just up to you. So when people are like, oh my gosh, I have to go against so-and-so or so-and-so, it's like, well, really you don't. Like, really, they're not going to like run over and push you out of the way of the barbell. But they might. But yeah, so it's a really different feeling, I think.
Do you expect, as you were in your last couple of games, did you expect people to respect you? Did you expect a certain kind of respect?
I think I learned my lesson in 2009. Yeah. In 2009, like, I didn't expect anyone to respect me. But I think there was this piece in my mind, like after 2008, when I was so close to winning, I felt like I deserved to win. Not like anybody needed to do me favors or anything like that, but I felt like it was my time. I deserved it. And then I realized real quickly, well, that's dumb because you don't deserve anything. And you need to earn every rep and every workout and every place, So I don't think I expected people to have some like respect that would be anything different. No, I didn't know. I just think I anticipated some of the younger athletes probably knowing who I was, not having any different kind of respect, but just like, oh, this is, a guy that I maybe watched and now I get a chance to compete with him.
We know how you got the head writer for the CrossFit Journal to help you with your book.
Yeah.
Pretty fucking cool. And then on top of that, you also get the greatest CrossFitter of all time to write your foreword. How did that happen?
Andréa's idea.
It was my husband's idea.
Oh.
Just passing this around.
It was my husband. No, I'd love to take credit for it, but
We're talking about Rich Froning,
it made
by the
a
way,
lot
not
of
Matt Fraser.
That was my idea.
Oh.
It made a lot of sense for multiple reasons. My husband suggested it, and I thought about it, and and this is the same thing that we told Rich when we talked to him, was it just makes a lot of sense. they are very similar in many ways. I think they're great representatives of CrossFit, not just for how they conduct and interact with other people and treat other people, but also just the way they move. I mean, Pat Sherwood jokingly once said that Rich Froning was a bigger version of Chris. So, I mean, they both move really well, and I think they're great representatives of CrossFit, and the faith element was there too.
Yeah.
It's important to both of them, and so it just made sense.
How does that go down? How do you call Rich? Do you text him?
I texted him a couple times. Andréa and I had the conversation, and then I texted him a couple times, and like, hey, would you be up for this? Would you be willing to do it? And then it's just conversations back and forth, and then getting him in touch with Andréa to make sure that like everyone's on the same page with, hey, here's how long it would need to be, or those are all things that thankfully I relied on her. And even like, I think that's at the point, did we start working with like Jeremy too, where he would help us with like author bios and forwards and how long they I forget. That was like
the
all
forward was already written when we
Okay.
Started working with the publisher, but yeah, the bio stuff
Who
was
is the
after.
publisher?
So we went with a company called Book in a Box.
Okay.
And so that it was actually really helpful.
They have an arm called Publishing in a Box, and they just like once you're done with your book and you're ready, like they'll come in and they'll design the inside and the outside and do that stuff that Chris was talking. Hey, do you want acknowledgements? Do you want author bio? What do you want the cover to look like? That kind of stuff. So. And
Jeremy's your point of contact.
Yeah, it's
there?
just
yeah, and which is cool because he's a CrossFitter.
Yeah.
And like unknowingly, we didn't know that.
Yeah, we didn't know, and
once we got
he was super excited to work with us, which was cool.
He refers to you as a legend in the forward, and that's why I said. Was that an expectation of yours? Like, was that no? And I would say the same thing about him. I think at that level, and I'm sure it's this way now. I haven't been there in 4 years, but I mean, there's such a level of respect between those guys when you're at the games. You see it when you're back there. It's like there's so little ego going around there, and there's always a little bit of tension and things like that. But the level of respect that's there is just huge. So. Yeah, and definitely not expected, but I think, I would say the same thing about him. And I don't remember the year, in the 2000s.
Yeah.
In Carson, I didn't see this event go down, but there became a murmur in Athlete Village that Noah Ohlsen had patted you on the head and called you Speally.
Oh my gosh. How crazy is this, man?
And I think it was his rookie year. And I know Noah, and I think he's an amazing guy.
It was.
We had him in here, and I brought it up to him.
Yeah, dude.
Did you remember?
No, he was like, holy shit, I never would want to do anything to be offensive. I make nicknames for everyone. I mean, he
texted me that night.
Oh, he did? Okay.
And apologized.
I mean, that's who he is.
Yeah,
he is. And like, that happened, and that bothered me.
I would never imagine that, like him to say that in a condescending fashion. I just don't think that's his persona.
Well, I don't want to attack Noah, but it's a totally different scene. Us here talking about in hindsight versus the fucking intensity that is the games.
Yeah, I mean, when you're walking around and like you're with all these, like whether people admit it or not, you can have fun and you're joking around, but like there's from day one, there's still a level of like you're like heightened awareness, I guess you could say. Like you're there, like you're the CrossFit Games, man. So
an Athlete Village is kind of like a cage where all the animals are like pacing,
especially
before they get out.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm a
Don't be
dude.
Don't be sexist, Speal.
I'm just being honest. They're great. Vicious.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. We were talking about the difference between men's sports and women's sports, and why like some sports I prefer women's sports and some sports I prefer men's sports. Yeah. And I really like women's tennis because it's so fucking gritty and like, it feels so competitive, right?
Yeah.
And that in CrossFit it's like that too. I mean, the men's is very competitive, but the women's lately it's like, whoa. As a spectator, you love it. Let's go back to the Noah thing. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
What can you tell me? What happened? Like what?
That's it. Yeah. Like we were.
Were you on the court? Were you?
No, we were in. I think it was his first CrossFit Games, and Noah's great. Noah, I think, has in the past maybe gotten a bad rap from some people, and I think just because he's younger. You know what I mean?
And he came on good.
And he came on strong, and I think that sometimes when people are younger, they don't always understand like how certain things they do could be projected. And I think some people just, it can maybe rub them the wrong way. And that's all that happened to me is we were in, I think we were in the Marriott, and I think it was his first CrossFit Games. And
had you actually met him before?
Yeah. So what's funny is like I had worked out with Noah when he was a kid. Like 14, smear him across the gym at Peaks 360, lap him. You know what I mean? Rush him.
Yeah, fuck you, Noah.
And he was like, and I remember him being like, "Oh my gosh, how can you do that that many rounds?" And because he was just a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching level 1 seminars, and this is like 2009, 2010. And so I worked out with him when he was, not even on the scene, not a blip on the radar. So I knew him, and I knew he's a good kid. But, we were in the lobby at the CrossFit Games, and he walked by and patted my head and rubbed my bald head and said, "Hey, Speally." And I was just like, what are you doing, man? I didn't say that to him, but I remember thinking like, what do you like? I would never do that to
out of all the options of interactions you had, you chose that one.
I would never do that.
Has anyone called you Spealies before that
Not
or since?
Since I was in 7th grade, my track coach called me Speals on Wheels or Spealiers. So when that happened, I was like, what?
So it wasn't even on the competition floor. It was at the Marriott.
Yeah, when we were getting ready to go register.
I'm seeing some inconsistencies in the story. I don't even know if it happened.
So that's when I remember it.
So flash forward 9 years to 2018.
Yeah, now.
Leave it up to me to bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
And he sends you a text immediately.
Poor kid. Yeah. I felt the second I got that text, I was like, oh, now I feel horrible because somehow this got out. And now Noah's been told, and I now am the guy that didn't have the nuts to be like, hey, Noah, don't do that. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying.
Hey, go pat Rich Froning and say Froning.
Right.
Richie.
Richie.
But I mean, and that's the thing is, truthfully, if I was man enough about it, and adult enough about it, I think I would have been like, hey, no, that's not the best way to approach that, because you probably shouldn't do that to people, right? I mean,
well, then we wouldn't.
Wait, the text that Noah sent you was recent?
Oh yeah.
What was?
I brought it up
last
in here
week.
I brought it up in here last week.
I
thought at first
6
it was
hours in here with him.
So this was years later, and he didn't remember it.
No, he didn't remember. By the way, just so you know,
but you saw it.
No,
you heard about
but
it.
It's a story. There's these iconic stories. There's 100 iconic stories that have happened at the CrossFit Games, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I felt so bad when I got the text too.
And so basically, I brought it up to Noah, and he had never heard of it. But what's funny is when the podcast was over, he went outside, and we talked about it out here, and then everyone came up, like Heber and Mariah and Marsden. They're like, "Oh yeah, we remember." Everyone was talking about it.
Oh my
and poor Noah's like,
he's like, "The what?
Yeah.
Did what? Did what?
Yeah." And the truth is
okay. Here, I'll read it.
Okay,
I'll read it. This is Noah. Texted me last weekend. I was out of town. Friday night.
What time?
Sitting in the hotel room. This was 6:35. Central Standard Time. Central Time is I don't know what time. And he writes, "Chris!" ! What a stand-up dude, right? Now I feel horrible. He says,
he didn't address you as Speally?
No. He said, "Chris, I'm sorry that years ago I patted your head and called you Speally with the possibility of that offending you. I have an affinity toward rubbing bald heads and nickname people as a way of bonding. I can see how the two may have been a bit frustrating. Hope you are well."
That's what he told us too. I think it's just he gets so excited. He's like one of those cats that you're petting and would just bite you. That's how Noah is.
Yeah, he does get excited, and I don't think he has any malicious intent.
Yeah,
no, and that's why I say he's young. You know what I mean? And I think that and so when people ask me, you could say that about any competitor that's young. When they don't know they're under the spotlight, or they don't know that they're maybe more easily scrutinized by either their peers or the camera that's around them. There's a responsibility there for all those athletes to set an example for themselves, the people that are watching. It doesn't mean you can't be yourself, but I don't know. You're just under this. You're under the microscope a bit more in those situations, I think.
I'd like to say to you that 2 out of 3 times that I've offended people, I apologize. Also, I overstepped my boundaries with Andréa in one of the podcasts many podcasts ago, and I apologize to her. And I overstepped my boundaries with Eric, and I apologize to him. I overstepped my boundaries with Matt and never apologized.
I was gonna say. I was like,
I'm two out of three. I'm 2 out of 3.
Only 3 times you offended people in life.
Oh,
I was actually thinking driving in today. I was like, I have no material to beat up on Matt today.
God.
But
what am I gonna do?
Yeah,
I think when that day comes, we just end this thing.
Yeah.
No
it's
more.
Over.
Ben Bergeron has a really intense relationship with Katrin.
Yeah.
Davidsdottir.
Yeah, Davidsdottir.
Davidsdottir, and she's really intense.
Yeah.
She's like not in a bad way. That word has some negative connotation.
No, people can be intense and not bad people.
Yeah, she's not all crinkly intense.
No,
you know what I
she's
mean.
Focused,
Yeah,
right?
focused.
Yeah.
Focus, I like that.
And their behavior as a coach and athlete is so unique to me, and when I see it, it's romantic. Not romantic like sexually romantic. What am I trying to say?
It could be romantic.
It's pretty. I mean, it is. It's intense and it's intimate.
Yeah.
Intimate. Thank you.
It's almost
That's
like
why I'm not a writer. It's intimate.
It's
See?
like
Helpful.
she's his daughter, and I think he's referred to her that way before, like the daughter that didn't have or whatever. Like they're tight.
And when I see that relationship, and then I picture him because he was your coach.
Yeah.
Another fascinating story. Read the book just to hear. There's a couple paragraphs on how your relationship from you meeting him to how he became your coach, and there's probably a whole podcast on how that happened and the humility it took for you to do that. But I don't see him being your trainer or Matt Fraser's trainer.
No.
Is he that dynamic in his ability to assess people? Is that special for Katrin? He has something special for you. Has something special for Matt?
I mean, it's a really unique and different situation. I mean, doesn't Katrin live in his house?
No, but
didn't she?
She's always there.
Didn't she though? Like
I think
don't know.
I
She
saw her
might
like
have.
eating
She-
breakfast in their kitchen
might
and shit.
have.
I mean, the Bergerons are great. They're very welcoming, like open home to people. So it maybe just appears that way to me, but no, not even close. I mean, that wasn't that way at all for.
Like this is like they need to be 6 inches closer. You know what I mean?
Listen to what I'm saying.
They don't obey the 1 foot rule that you have in the 8th grade.
No, and I mean that's not at all the relationship that I had with Ben in that way. And I think part of it is that I lived across the country and I had trained for how many years on my own. And I mean, I would go to the CrossFit Games, and like I think he was at one of my regionals in 2013. He came out for that one
With Heather, you talk
With
about that
Heather,
in your
yeah.
book, yeah.
At the
And you didn't
CrossFit
make it that
Games.
year, right?
Nope.
Okay.
So it was different. I lived across the country. It wasn't something where I was training like face to face with him every day. And I also, the thing that I appreciated about Ben is it wasn't like Ben just telling me what I needed to do. It was often me telling him what I thought was going to work well and him elaborating on that or improving upon it.
You called him a game plan genius.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that guy, more than anybody that I ever knew, was really.
I mean, this is intimate. Sorry, we'll get back to game plan genius.
That's okay.
I mean, look at this. Everything about. I mean, maybe I'm bringing it to it.
I think it's
I
just
think
good
you're pretty-
media.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think you're
Go back.
accurate.
Game plan.
Yeah.
Game plan.
Yeah. I mean, like he just, he has a way about assessing workouts and breaking them down to create maybe a different way of looking at it or a different approach for it, a different strategy.
Does it come natural to him, or is he working on it? Like I've heard he takes all the game workouts and figures out from all the game workouts what's most likely going to be in the games the following year based on what hasn't been there.
I think it's both. You know what I mean? I think Ben is just like inherently, from when I even saw him coaching at level 1s, he's just a great communicator. He's someone that obviously does like a lot of reading on, either, mentality, business, self-help, positive stuff. Like he's just all into that. And that kind of comes out in the the coach that he is, but I also know that he works really hard. You know what I mean? He works really hard to do that. So I think it's a blend of both. I wouldn't give the credit toward one or the other entirely.
I think his athletes inspire him too.
I think so. You know what I mean? I think he gets that, and I think that's probably just like kind of from the personality or the approach that he chooses to have on life.
Do you think that any part of him coaches because he lives vicariously through you guys? Like he really wants to be the athlete, but he knows he can't. So no.
I never ever got that from him.
That's why I'd coach.
Good reason to.
It's not a bad reason. Really?
I don't think it's very satisfying, right?
Because I'm not doing it myself.
Well, no, it's just not like you don't have control over that.
It's like
you can get your athlete as prepared as possible, but like ultimately, it's them on the floor and they have to do what they can do. And if you are going to be happy depending on their success, then I think that's probably going to put a whole lot of pressure on them. That's undue, and I think that you may be less happy than you would hope to be.
That's when you just start yelling a lot and throw a chair onto the court.
Yeah, it works well.
Seen it before.
There's a theme in the book that I let so-and-so down. I let this person down. I let these people down. And as I've known you throughout the years, I know that about you too. I've never felt that way personally, that I've ever let anyone down. I don't think in that paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't even, it sounds like crazy pressure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I've never even felt like I've let my parents down.
I'm a people pleaser, right? You know those people that are like, Rourke, my son is like that. He's like scared. Like, do you remember those kids? Or maybe you guys were around, like you're scared to, it's when your parents like say they're disappointed in you.
Mm.
You're like,
oh, yeah,
my gosh.
Yeah, that would crush me.
Yeah.
That would crush me. That would crush me.
Right.
They never said that to me, but that would fuck me up.
So that's the stuff where it's like when you're a people pleaser, and I think unique to me, well, maybe not unique to me, but at least what I felt was I was like always playing the underdog role, which I loved, but I always felt like I was kind of bridging the gap. Like, man, if he can do it, maybe I can. And just felt like so much support from the community that you wanted to do well for them, not just for me, but like, oh my gosh, like I hope I do well for them too. And then when that doesn't happen, like, oh, I hope I didn't let them down. And I know that's stuff that I project on myself.
Do you keep that as a pathology to work hard? Is it something as you mature? No.
No.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I think so.
Like someone said, hey, Mike Tyson, you should go see his therapist. And he's like, why? It's these problems that let me knock people out in the first round. like
I need this.
Yeah. Do you feel like do you feel like to be the ultimate role model, to be the ultimate Christian, to be the ultimate who you really are, that at some point you need to transcend that? You know what I mean? Do you think
I think you need to hold that with a loose hand.
What do you mean by that?
Like,
and what I'm talking about is that feeling that you have that you're letting people down. Like,
yeah, I think that I think you need to, and I've always said this about any competitor, myself included. Like, a calm competitor is a dangerous one. You know, like a very like a calm and cool competitor is one that you better like reckon with, because they know who they are. They know they're prepared. They know they've done everything they need to. They're focused on what they need to do. They're not worried about outside variables. And that's an outside variable. I can't control what the community thinks about me as long as I'm staying true to who I should be, or I want to be. So that's just ultimately a distraction. So that's why I say I think you need to hold out the loose hand. You need to know the responsibility that you have, I think, to who you want to be when you walk out on the competition floor. And I guess you could say like the legacy you want to leave. But you also need to... yeah, you need to hold that with a loose hand so that it doesn't control you.
Yeah, I think that's an aspect of being successful in any sort of competition. You have to have some sort of pressure to want to do this. Or what are you doing it for? The money? I mean, sure, what? There's some sort of external pressure, whether or not it's making somebody happy or not. Like, you have to have. So I think the loose hand is a great way to put it.
And do you see that pressure as being an insecurity, as being a pathology, as being a weakness that you, instead of letting be a weakness, you use it to drive you?
I'm going to answer this for Chris.
Go ahead. Yes.
I think if you hone it in too hard and you make it too much of your focus, then it can be. And you're like, oh, fuck, I'm just not good enough. And it starts spiraling out of control. And it's like, how do you recover from that? You know, say you're at the games. You can't.
Yeah. I mean, same thing at work, right? Anything else we do. If we start, like, if you start comparing yourself too much to other people or putting outside pressures on you, it's like that conversations you have in your head before they even happen. You know what I'm talking about?
Like driving in here to interview you today.
Yeah, or like if you're like having an argument or like you think there's gonna be a disagreement, you're like, oh, if they say this, well, I'm gonna say this. And then all of a sudden you get all like balled up, and you haven't even had the conversation with the person yet.
And it never, the words inside your head never materialize.
Yeah, so I think it's similar.
People are gonna get really upset if I don't ask you about your diet and your training. But fuck them.
But you don't have to.
Not ask about that.
You don't have to.
I'm about to get nutrition punched right now.
In 2009, Rob Orlando came up the hill carrying the sandbag.
Yeah.
He's fucking like gonna die. His lips are turning blue. I said, "What do you think about this event?" And he said something like, "Just like every CrossFit event, he's like, there's nothing fair about this fucking sport."
Yeah.
And he went into this whole thing about how this sport isn't fair, but that's what he liked about it.
Uh-huh.
And you talk about that in your book about how this isn't fair. First, are there any sports that are fair? Like is wrestling fair?
That's why I got into it. I mean, until you get into like the politics of some of the, reffing that can happen at high levels. But yeah, I mean, wrestling's about as fair as it can get. Like if I lost, you're better than me today. You're the same weight as me. Like that, how, there can be some reffing and things like that, but the sport, right, it's just like, it's pretty fair.
Right. Everyone knows you can't gouge the guy in the eyes. If you do, this happens, this happens, this happens.
You know the rules, yeah.
And so what about, and for those of you who think we're being derogatory, we're not. It's just one of the aspects.
Yeah, CrossFit is not fair.
It's just like mountain climbing. You might get rain, you might not.
Yeah.
But CrossFit isn't fair because you might get rain and you might not, right? What about it to you is not fair?
I mean, it doesn't take out. Life isn't fair.
Right.
That's what it is. It's like if at the very root of it, if the goal of CrossFit is to prepare you for the unknown and unknowable, that's not fair. And that's your answer. It's as simple as that. If the program is designed for GPP and to prepare you for the unknown and unknowable, those things are not fair. And then whatever comes out is whoever does the best is going to do the best. And CrossFit as a sport, let's be honest, and I like having these conversations because I think people like tiptoe around them now. Like if you want to be the best CrossFitter in the world, guess what? It's really helpful if you're between 5'7" and 5'10" and 185 and 205 pounds.
I like it.
Yeah, you're gonna be you're already in a really good spot. Guess what? If you're 5'4" and 140 or 6'4" and 220, your chances just went down. And it doesn't mean there aren't anomalies. Fikowski's a great example, a guy that's still on the podium and it does not fit the norm. Me being a smaller athlete, Bridges, like there are people that break that mold, but look, I am the exact average size of a female CrossFit Games athlete. Exact. When that came out last year, that statistic, I was like, that's me. 5'4", 140 pounds. Like that is exactly me. I'll crush them. Maybe not even. But yeah, so it's not fair. And the sport has, because of the way that it's evolved and because of, I think, the logistics of events and the time domains that are required and TV and crowd appeal, all those things play a role. And that's great. But it also lends itself to certain workouts. We're limited to a certain amount of events because we can't just totally trash athletes. You know what I mean? And the fittest will always rise to the top, for sure. They always will. But if you want to win the CrossFit Games, just like if you want to play a position in the NFL, a certain body type will lend itself a whole lot better to it than others. It's like any sport.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah. If I want, like, guess what?
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to play in the NBA.
There's and you could even say there's a certain body type that's the best for GPP.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a certain body type that works best in a Chevy Nova.
There is.
right?
Yeah. And there's a certain body type that is the fastest 100-meter sprinter, and
Right.
and CrossFit has evolved enough as a sport that with the loads that athletes have to lift and the demand that they have to do, like, you're just, if you're proportionate, that's also really helpful. Oh,
Then-
that's so bad.
Then let me ask you this. When you made the podium in 2012, 10,
Yep.
I walked up to Dave and I said to him, and he got furious at me, and you guys were very close back then, right?
Yeah.
I said, you programmed this so Spealler could get on the podium. And he said, absolutely not. And he got really angry. And I kept taunting about it. I'm like, well, then how the fuck could a guy who's such an outlier make it onto the podium?
Bridges has.
Yeah. It has Bridges?
Yep. Second place in 2012.
He's different than you, though, right?
Yeah, he's like 20 pounds heavier than me.
At least
30 pounds.
40.
Yeah, I don't know what he weighs now. When we were like, talking more frequently.
He's 180 right now if we text him.
Okay, yeah, because like when I talked to you,
calling him an
when I talked last, he was like
heavy.
weighing around 170. So that's like, 25, 30 pounds is a lot.
Do you think that programming, you kind of allude to it in the book?
Yeah, I knew.
And that he programmed for you?
No, I knew that I wasn't gonna win. I knew that I wasn't gonna win the CrossFit Games. In that moment,
but you do,
I knew I would have another shot.
You do call the programming on page 147.
Yeah.
Of the new Speal book that actually sold out on the CrossFit store stuff.
Paperback.
They restocked.
Having seen such favorable programming,
Yeah.
you call it favorable.
Yeah. Every athlete at the CrossFit Games, and you start talking about the top 10.
And you were on there with big guys, by the way, Graham and Rich.
Yeah. So every athlete, I don't care who you talk to, every athlete at the end of an event will be like, that was a good games for me. Like workout wise, that was good. Or like, man, there were a handful in there that were really tough. It's just like, I'm trying to think of like a good example. Rob Forte, great example.
Yep.
Rob is a freak show, right?
Yeah,
And
he wins events at the games.
And stuff that Rob's really good at that I think most people don't think are things like the bike or the longer runs. And I don't think people are ready for that for Rob, but he can still move the weight and do. So Rob's
Right.
a good example of someone that like fits the mold.
Right.
But if you see more longer stuff, more running, Rob's gonna just keep floating to the top. Where guess what? If you see every event have a run in it, guess who's floating to the bottom? Maybe Rich. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Just not because Rich isn't fit,
Right.
and that's where you again start to see like programming and training start to change that too. Because look at Fraser. Fraser winning the sprint and the long run, the 2017. So you'll see athletes adapt for sure, but I think there are very few people that are like the Frasers and the Riches that like are frequently top 5, and then just like, and it doesn't take anything away from them, but like look at their body type, look at their work ethic, right? Look at the scenarios that they have. Those guys are in a position where that's awesome that they've set themselves up like that. They can train constantly. They don't financially they're able to do that and set themselves up like that. That's what they do. That's their job.
Right.
Where guess what? The kids that are 20 and in college and working the night job, trying to scrape by with no sponsors, working their brains out. It doesn't mean they can't do it, but it's just not every odd stacked in your favor. Where now every odd is stacked.
Distracted by thousands of beautiful women.
Maybe, possibly.
We were talking about the complications of being a young CrossFit.
Yeah.
Those of you who are getting ready, who are starting to type on YouTube bad shit about me because I'm asking Chris what you would consider hard questions. Wait for it, because this is the one you want to save all your venom for.
Now it's
Here we
coming.
You
go.
want to save all your venom for this
Eric,
next
can I make
one.
a timestamp here?
In 2011, there was a softball throw.
Oh my gosh! Thank goodness Khalipa went after me.
In my mind, you are one of the, not only one of the most fit people who ever walked the planet, but because of your wrestling background, and I know one of the, you're just a dominant figure. As an athlete, you're an aggressive, dominant. You're like a man child. You know what I mean? Like you're ready to go. Which we'll get back to about when you and Dave Castro almost wrestled in 2010. Actually, you did start to wrestle, but he for some reason
running away.
He did. So we'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. He did run away. I'm dying to know what you thought about that. But how come this core to extremity thing wasn't working for you? Did you not throw the ball as a kid? What happened in 2011?
No, and that's the thing is like, so I grew up playing soccer. I played like t-ball. And then I stopped playing baseball to where your coach pitches to you. And like after the 8th strike, you're out kind of thing. So I didn't grow up like that. The sports that I played were soccer, wrestling, lacrosse, all that stuff. And this is like, Dad, I love you. But I never played catch with my dad because we were always like either playing soccer or doing something else. So I never would just like go play catch. I never played any ball sports ever.
Didn't you used to skip rocks out on the lake?
No,
or?
I still can't skip rocks.
Wow.
Are you kidding me? And I've even had
all men.
I'll even have.
I'd love to hear this about your weaknesses.
Oh,
this
it's so
is
great.
amazing.
It's so great.
After this, we're gonna go have a skipping contest. I'm gonna fuck you up.
And it's what's so great is Rourke, my son, for some weird reason, like has an arm on him, and clearly Dad hasn't taught you anything,
right?
But it's funny because I've even in the gym like had a football around, be like, Doug, teach me how to throw a ball. Show me the sequence of events that I need to do here, and I'll like practice it with Rourke. It's like because I'm a spaz. I'm like, I wonder if I can do that better.
Can you throw now?
I don't think I can throw very well, and this isn't.
Is it this?
It's
this part?
I think it's partly because I think my labrum might be torn. So every time I throw a ball,
you have a labrum?
Hurts. Yeah.
Oh, a labrum.
Yeah, not the other thing you were thinking about.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
Sorry.
Yeah, so that's not. I don't think that's the root cause, but that doesn't feel good. But no, that's one thing that I've always been really bad at. I remember punt pass kick. Do you remember punt pass kick in
punt pass kick?
You notice how he stopped asking me. He looked at me. He's like,
Do you remember gym?
I did not play that game.
I didn't play punt pass kick. No.
No, Eric. No. We had to do it in gym. Did you have to do it?
Never did.
No. So it was in gym class, and it was this test they would do where you would have to. It was all football. You had to pass it. You'd throw it as far as you could. Had to punt it and then try to kick it through the field goal. And I was mortified because I could never do any of that.
So you knew. So when the softball throw came up, you knew. You're like, I'm fucked.
Done. I remember watching Lipson like try to teach Camille how to throw the ball in the background and thinking like, I'm just going to watch what he's telling her and try to do that.
Right.
Did it ever cross your mind to underhand it?
No. I remember I like really went for it.
That would have been awesome.
I should have tried to kick it. It would have gone for it.
Did you throw it farther than Jason?
I don't know if I did.
Okay.
I just think mechanically his looked so much worse. It was like a catapult. You know what I mean? I don't know what he was doing.
Dude.
But because he went right after me, for whatever reason,
I'm not uncomfortable.
People just remember his throw, which is fine with me.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. It is definitely seared in my mind.
Yeah. So,
just like his.
It's the elbow. It's the elbow throw. We could teach you to throw like an hour outside.
I try. It's like elbow high.
It'd be easy.
Yeah.
It's like when Haley hits me, there's no follow through because she doesn't want to really hurt me. You know what I mean? Like if I say something, she goes to hit me. It's like,
yeah.
I can just tell like her will's not there.
I hit my husband full on.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
She has no.
Andrea's like, I can throw
She's
a ball
always like,
and a
ow!
punch.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if I can throw a ball. I don't think I've. Really
I always
tried,
tell him
but-
like, your hit is so weak. Don't let our kids see that.
Did you tell her that she hits like a girl? I felt like that was about to come out.
I
of your mouth.
really don't. I really can't handle that, Andrea. Please. I probably did say that. In 2010, there was something called Tahoe Throwdown.
Yeah.
Amazing event. So many good moments there. But
yeah.
there was we were in this $30 million home, and we were out on the. I think we were inside. Yeah, we were. I think maybe we were inside or outside, but somehow you ended up just one-on-one with the semi, like a high school fight.
Yeah, we were outside. Yeah, on the deck.
Basically, and Dave was saying he could beat your ass, and you're
I
like,
think so. Yeah, like I disagree.
I disagree. and we went outside, and it was like just in high school, everyone circled around, and you guys started towing off. And
Was this captured on film?
it is on film somewhere.
I don't.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there. I must have captured it on film. But he
was saying like he didn't think. I think he was saying that he didn't think I could take him down. like in wrestling. Because I was like, okay, like if we're talking wrestling, like you can't throw punches. Like I'm confident I could take you down. And he's like, I'm confident you can't, because he's Dave, right?
So nearly all American wrestler versus Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
Retired Navy SEAL.
Which I've put some other Navy SEALs on their back, not to be mentioned.
Can you say that Andy
Sherwood?
Oh yeah,
that was awesome. That was so great. At the Four Seasons Hotel years ago.
What happened?
We were outside the bathroom and we were just kidding around.
Drunk?
No.
Neither of you drink.
No, I'm just not into it. It doesn't taste good to me for some reason. But
That's too bad.
we were kind of kidding around.
Doesn't taste good to anyone.
Yeah, we were kind of kidding around
true.
and like, I forget how we got into it, but like we started kind of wrestling a little bit, and I just like foot sweeped him and put him on his back on the carpet, and it was just so funny because like Pat's awesome, you know, and he was laughing, but yeah, so that's my claim to fame on, yeah.
It's funny, you foot sweep him and he's laughing, and I asked him a question once about boning at the games, and he threatened to choke me.
Sherwood's gonna drop you like a rock.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess he knows, like he can choke me, but he can't choke you. Anyways, let's get back to Dave. 2010, and so you guys start circling each other, and the way I remember it is Dave was just like did not want to come near you. He did not want to engage.
Well, that was his strategy, and that's what he said. He's like, well, yeah. He's like, well, I can kind of like flee or get. I was like, but that's not the rules. Like you have to engage. So then it kind of turned into this wild like
Cat and mouse
circling around. He was sort of like,
I think you pulled his head down a few
I
times.
tried, but he kept like fleeing the scene.
Oh my god, you're a good collegiate wrestler. You drop him in a second.
I'm not saying Dave's not tough, but if it's the rules of wrestling,
It's just like a familiarity.
yeah, it'd be like me saying like, Dave, I think I can outshoot you.
I
think I'm going to be better out on the range than you. Maybe not.
I remember being uncomfortable. Are you uncomfortable in situations like that? Or you're like, no, that's what I do for a living. I grab people, I throw them on the ground and tie them in a knot. I'm like, oh shit, this is intense.
So it's funny because we actually had some girls in our gym just do like some hand-to-hand kind of like self-defense stuff, which I think is great, you know? And but I said one of the things that, because Sarah and I were talking about it, and she's like, should I do it? Should I not? It's like, I think, it could be good. But I said one thing they need to remember is like, and this is something I never have ever thought about. If someone's never been in those situations before, I think they're really surprised when someone puts their hands on them. They're like, holy crap, what do I do? Like, I grew up like that. Like, that's just the sport that I grew up in. So if that happens, it's kind of second nature what to do. And I remember telling Sarah, like, those self-defense things are great, but if they want to be comfortable, they have to do that, like, frequently, like a couple times a week, consistently. Because otherwise, if I learn how to do this or that, and then I don't do anything for 6 months, and God forbid something happens, there's probably going to be a pretty high level of discomfort when someone, engages. So I got on that.
I wrestled all growing up.
Yeah,
that's just all we did all day. My sister, my friends in the yard with my dad from when I was like 2 to 13. Yeah, just casual wrestling. Always did it. Lots of crying, but just you know what I mean. Just the more the merrier. And that's why when Matt pushed me in the gym one day about a year ago,
he walked into my hand.
It didn't even. You were throwing a temper tantrum and you shoved me when I came over to you. But anyway, what's interesting about that is now I have 3 boys. And we'll have kids over, and the other kids will say that my son is hitting them when I know it's not hitting. And they'll go tell their parents, and even their parents will think it's hitting. Yeah, he's trying to engage them in play. So I've had to tell him, like, hey, I know you're not hitting. I know, like, you're just pulling and you're on the trampoline and you want to engage them. Because there are kids that hit and bite and shit, and that sucks, and they scratch the face. Yeah. But my kid just wants to run by. He'll slap you on the ass. He'll pull your hand. He's trying to just get in a cat and mouse, like, I go, hey, that's what your brothers are for.
Yeah.
It's like but it's interesting because there are those parents out there who even the slightest contact my kid makes with them, they're like, hey, we can't have this.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them. And it's because they didn't have siblings, or they didn't wrestle, or they didn't like...
I think too, it's like their level of comfort, their kids' level of comfort.
Right.
You turn into Papa Bear. The second you think your kid's like, uncomfortable with the situation, You know, it's part of being a parent. You got to teach your kids how to deal with it. It's different for everybody.
So what would you do with your kids if they were faced with that situation?
What if you brought Rourke over and Avi was? What if you brought Rourke and Milo over and Avi was pushing him on the trampoline?
Rourke would be sensitive and be like, "Dad," because he's like he doesn't want to hurt. He doesn't want to hurt kids, and he doesn't want to get in trouble. You know, Milo would probably give him the stink eye and be like, "Bro, knock it off." But so this actually happened. It's funny. Milo she's in kindergarten and she was at school and she's like, "Dad, some boy in line." And this came up. We do this thing called.
Wait, how old is Milo now?
She's 6.
Oh.
So we do this thing called high-low buffalo every night. So we talk about like your high, your low, and some random thing that happened. And in this conversation, she's like, "Daddy, this boy, we're in line and he touched my butt." I was like, "What?" Instantly, like, "Tell me who he is," And I was like, try to stay calm. And she's like, we were like, "What happened?" And tell us what happened. And I was like, "If that happens again," I was like, "You turn around, you punch him in the nose." And
did she do it?
I was like, so then I was like, okay, I got to rein things in here a little bit and tell her how to handle it. So then we emailed her teacher just to be like, "Hey, just so you know this happened. Are you cool if you talk to Milo about it?" Just so she's like talking to other adults and letting them know. And Milo's like, "Oh yeah, you can tell my teacher. I don't care." And so her teacher.
That's very cool of you, by the way, that you did that. That you talked to your daughter first. That shows some respect.
Yeah, thanks. Try, So we I got an email from her teacher the next day, and she said, "I spoke with Mila," because we let her teacher know. And she said, "I spoke with Mila," and she said that
Daddy said,
that if he does it again, to punch him in the nose. And I was like, oh my gosh, like. And I emailed the teacher back, and I was like, "Yeah, I think Papa Bear came out a little bit in that one." But I tell her all the time, like, or Rourke, I'm like, "Hey, if you guys need to stand up for yourself or for one of your friends, and it's funny because I remember my dad saying this to me, but still being so scared. Like, even if you get in trouble at school, you're not going to get in trouble with Dad. I remember my dad saying that because he's like overly confident. I say that stuff in the book. He's like super.
I know your dad too. He's intense
gosh.
as shit.
He's so funny.
He's intense.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's intense.
He'll turn your hand to sawdust.
Yeah, he is intense.
Kill you with a shake of the hand. And so I remember as a kid him always being like so overly confident, and I couldn't relate to him. And he'd be like, "You just punch him in the face and run." And I'm like, "What? What? I can't get in a fight." I was like Rourke, sensitive soul, scared I was gonna hurt somebody's feelings.
My grandma told me to do that when I was younger.
Did you do it?
School. Oh yeah, punched her in the face and just watched her fall over.
Boom. We have very, very close family friend. I don't want to say his name, Alex Matthews. And he told his daughter that if Avi keeps grabbing her, to punch him in the nose.
Hey.
And I'm like, but I think it's okay that he grabs her. So I'm like, all right, well, there's going to be a natural consequence for Avi, but I don't think what he's doing is wrong. But all right, I'll just kind of see how this one plays out. I mean, they're young. They're 3.
Sometimes violence solves problems.
I mean, it's, So, it's hard being a parent.
I think Alex said that Avi gets 3 warnings.
Oh yeah. So we'll try to tell our kids like use your words.
Don't do that.
Is that 3 like each interaction, or just like they accumulate over time?
No, I think it's each interaction. I'm hoping.
It just
I feel like that's
resets.
I feel like that's a kid natural reset button.
It's like waiting for mom to count to 3.
They're also like those two see each other, and like when 2 kids are friends and they see each other and they just lose their shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Wow, this is awesome.
Yeah. So every time they see each other, they just.
Yeah, it's game time.
They come unhinged. Yeah, they're like 2 snakes that coil. You know what I mean? I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. I feel like I didn't even have to use much of my notes. Are you going to write a second book?
That's funny. Like, I remember saying something to Andréa about that. I don't know. I've already gotten some emails with people kind of asking me, "Hey, was this written pre-Masters competition or post?"
No mention of Masters in here.
And that's because it took us, a little over 2 years to write and another year to get published, or another 8 months to get published. Like, we took our time to try to do it as best as we could. So I've even said to Andréa, like, let's see how this does. And it might be cool to just give people the perspective, because no one's done this. Like, take a deep breath, and it's okay to transition from elite to normal. You know, like what's
Page
that look like?
333.
Yeah, about 10
My
pages.
fitness had reached a level that was unsustainable. And we had a guest in here, and when we walked out of here, Matt basically, you know, we were doing a debrief on the guest, and he said that lifestyle is unsustainable.
100%.
About one of our guests. And when you said that in the book, that's only the second time I've heard that.
Yeah.
My fitness has reached a level that was unsustainable. I was like, wow, that's some potent shit.
Yeah. You can't do that.
Because of all sorts of reasons. Age, family, hardship on the body.
They talk about it at the level 1.
Life.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the definition of health? And, you know, once you start looking at the age continuum, it's, okay, now we need to try to maintain this for as long as possible. We need to take this and try to hang on to it for as long as we can. But that we talk about that at level 1. So, you know, that at some point age plays a role, and now it's maintaining or keeping as much work capacity as you have. It comes for everybody.
One of the most profound things I ever heard from a games athlete in regards to training came from you. It was many years ago. This was in 2008 or 2009, and you were talking about age. And you and please course correct me as I say this. You were talking about the fact that it's not the multiple days of once you've reached a certain level, it's not the multiple days of training you need necessarily to get stronger or faster, but you need that recovery in those multiple days to work on technique and skills, whether it be double unders, triple unders, walking on your hands. And that's the real hardship of getting older, because you have to choose your workouts that much more carefully. Yeah. Does this sort of make sense to you?
I don't remember saying that stuff, but I think
you're like, oh fuck, I can't do 4 workouts anymore. No. So those 2 I choose have to really be the ones.
Yeah. And if I can, so the way I look at it now is if I can bridge the gap in a way to just like, I think there's a big gap in the community where there are people that train at an affiliate or just an hour a day. That's all they need, and that's awesome. That goes so far. It goes so far. And then there's, you know, our games athletes and people that are high level are really pushing to be high level competitors. But there's this like no man's land, right? Where there's people that are maybe like me that have been doing it for a decade, or they've been doing it for a long time, and they want like a little bit more. But then all of a sudden, like their little bit more goes from, I'm just going to work out at the box to, oh, now I have to do what a games athlete's doing. It's like, no, you don't. You don't need to do that. You really don't. You could do it like, you can do that workout and a little bit more if you want and still have it be really reasonable. And I think people...
Especially if your diet's tight, right?
Yeah. I mean, all that stuff, diet, lifestyle. And I say this a lot to people that I work with or, you know, podcasts that I do is... I think there are people that are begging to be told, like, hey, you don't have to try to be Matt Fraser. You don't have to try to be the best in the world. Like, you can do this because you can do CrossFit because you love it. And that might mean that you do it more than 45 minutes or an hour a day. But, like, let your training serve you and not own you. I think there are a lot of people walking around kind of like zombies just that have forgotten why they're training so much. And it's like, let's do this right so that you can enjoy CrossFit for a lifetime and not burn out in the next 5 years and hate it. Because eventually people, one of 2 things is going to happen, I think, is either people do way too much, way too soon, and they get spit out because they either never reached the goal, never went to the games, or whatever that goal is. And they kind of get spit out. They're so burnt out on it that they just go into, and this is okay, like go into Olympic lifting or go into, I'm just going to go run marathons. You know what I mean? We've seen these stories. Yeah. And that's okay, because maybe that's what they really are passionate about. But I also think some of those people like still genuinely want to love CrossFit, but they're just so burnt out on it. So it's like, let's find the middle ground. Like, let's let that serve you well. So I don't know. I think it'd be cool.
By the way,
it's incredibly profound.
For people who do get burnout, a great recovery tool, go to your local affiliate and jump into a class.
Yeah, or like one thing I encourage people to do. Just do that class. It seems like every time I start like when I was younger in my 30s and I was like pushing too hard, now compared to like going down here and doing the classes here at CrossFit HQ, I never get burnout in the class. I have my friends, I have my community, I have my camaraderie, I have like... Or one thing I encourage people to do is go play a sport. It's one of coaches' phrases and world-class fitness in 100 words. Like, how many of us got into CrossFit because we wanted to be better at whatever sport we started playing, and then we stopped playing that sport because we wanted to be so good at CrossFit, and then we've kind of lost our way? I mean, like, go buy a cheap mountain bike and just go try to ride. Like, I say this all the time. I got a dirt bike, and I love getting my butt kicked on that thing. It is so humbling and so awesome, and it makes me more fit.
Love a motorcycle.
So good.
Chris, you say in the book that the CrossFit and the CrossFit Games are two different creatures, and I want to compliment you on this. I feel like that there have been Games athletes in the past who realize that. They come into CrossFit, they become CrossFit Games athletes, and then when they look back, they almost want to poo-poo the Games or talk down on the Games. And you do it in a way that's not negative towards the Games at all. But you also do it in a way that's like, hey, don't let the Games ruin CrossFit for you. Don't let the Games deter you from doing CrossFit. Don't let the Games, deter you from letting your fitness
serve you.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh, thanks.
You handle it very well in the book. One of your final thoughts in your book towards the very, very end is that there's more value in being transparent than a facade. What does that mean to you, to be transparent as opposed to a facade?
I mean, at that point in the book, that's kind of when things are closing up. And I think it's just being real with people. You know what I mean? Like, it's I couldn't hold on to that level of fitness anymore. And also just like letting people know that it's, like, it's really hard, and you don't need to have all your crap figured out. I think it's, you hear people talk about this. It's easy to see people on social media and it looks like they have all their crap together all the time. And, it's easy to compare yourself to other people. But I think there's more value in us just being honest and real and having legit conversations, even though they can be tough sometimes, but you can still respect one another. And I think that that's a big, it's a big part of, I think, the next step for every athlete. It's just be honest. You know what I mean? Like, there are athletes walking around out there that are super banged up. And that's okay, but let other people know so that maybe they don't have to go down that road. Maybe they're not willing to pay that price. There are other athletes that, have chosen to take a different route. But if we don't have that conversation,
if you're on steroids, just tell everyone.
Well, that's the other thing, though, too.
Have you taken steroids?
No. Does it look like I've taken steroids? I never got randomly tested for a reason. Hey, I had to take tests.
Who am I to judge?
Yeah, but that's the other thing. Things like that. It's like people ask those things, like, do you think it's in CrossFit? Well, yes, it is in CrossFit. Why? How do you know? Well, because people get busted for it.
But you've never seen anyone take it.
I've never seen anyone take it, no.
And you've never been in a conversation where you see athlete A and athlete B talking about where to get their steroids?
No.
You have no firsthand knowledge of any drugs?
I don't, no.
Yeah.
No.
None?
Nope.
Is there anything in the book that is too intimate? I had Josh Bunch in here. Do you know him?
Yeah.
He wrote a very intimate
Practice book. CrossFit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. His book is really lets you take a peek into his life. Is there anything in there that you're like, I should have kept that to myself. That was too much.
Nah, I don't think so. And I think partly because it's like I think it's helping answer that question of partly like what people ask, like, hey, like, why do you decide to do that? What, kind of what made you the way that you are? And also, too, just like a cool account for my kids. Yeah, so.
How about the part in the book that talks about your cavalier lifestyle in college, out with women all night?
Ooh. Hey,
that part, yeah.
Now we're getting
the
somewhere.
whole chapter that's based on
Oh,
that.
It's like a half a sentence about
gosh.
girls in college. It's so, I'm like, oh, this is the part I'm waiting for. Oh, this part's over. All right.
It stopped. Where did it go?
Are you still friends with that guy, your roommate, who
Josh?
You mentioned you guys kept each other accountable?
Yeah, Josh is awesome, man. He's he's in the military, so I don't talk to him very often because he gets deployed often. But he's one of those guys where when you catch up again, it's like just you pick up right where you left off. He's such a good dude. He's awesome.
Who's fitter, Matt Fraser or Rich Froning in their prime?
In their prime, Matt Fraser.
Just right off your tongue.
Let's remember.
No respect, Chris.
That in 2014, a sick Rich Froning beat Matt Fraser.
Oh, you're.
See, I respect her. I respect her. We can have these conversations and be adults.
How come Matt didn't write the foreword for the book?
Oh, let me tell you something. Andréa Cecil, if you push back too hard, she can come over the table and fuck you up. Yes. 5,000 calories a day.
It's legit.
And still only weighing 147 soaking wet and shit.
At that time, I think I was 154, 152. Whew. Yeah. Big.
Soft.
Yeah. That's when I was soft. Yeah.
I mean, that's nuts. I when I visited you, we went to Whole Foods together. I couldn't believe how much you ate. This was in 2008. You would get these bowls of berries.
Yeah.
And they were insane.
This was the Chris Mason program?
This is when I started getting on it, yeah. But yeah, I would get, when I was on the road, I would get the small tubs of like almond butter, that and a thing of fruit and a whole chocolate bar, and I just mix it all up and eat it.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Gains.
Can you get fat?
Yeah, I think I can, but not real easily.
You think you could get up to 180?
No.
No, it's just not possible.
That sounds like it would hurt.
I mean,
I
could.
Unless you quit CrossFit and just started becoming a bodybuilder.
I can't believe this podcast is really good. A low when I'm asking Chris Spealler to get to 180.
It would be bad.
You have a podcast.
Yeah.
You have 77 episodes.
I guess so. I did not know that.
Wow.
And you've crossed over the 500,000 download mark.
Yeah.
And I don't know your co-host name.
Doug Zacharias. He's on similar stuff.
I don't give a shit who your co-host is. I was just telling you. I don't know.
He's hilarious. He's hilarious.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Appreciate it.
I hope we.
I've got 2 questions. Eric, can you bring back up the podium shot? It'll be quick.
Okay, let's do it. You wait till I have to take a piss.
I've been waiting for you to land the plane for like a half hour to ask this question. 2 questions. 1, do you still have the $250 gift card? And 2, what did you spend said $250 on?
Oh, you mean that? Actually, by the way, we're looking at a picture for those of you who are at home of Chris Spealler standing on the podium.
Look at how young Rich looks.
I know.
Wow.
And
Graham too.
Yeah. No, I don't have the gift card anymore. In fact, I don't think I took that home. I think I handed that back to them immediately after that.
Okay.
I still have a like raincoat type thing that because this was from Under Armour then.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's not even cash?
No, it was a gift card. So I had to buy things Under Armour, and I think I still have a couple pairs of their underwear and like a raincoat from them.
Wow, underwear. That's impressive.
I know, right?
Chris, you'll come back?
Oh, heck yeah.
So I've ended the show
appreciate you having us.
and started the show with lines I've never used before.
I appreciate
Have I said
you guys
that before?
having me.
Asked someone to
Will you
back?
come back?
Yeah, like I wanted to come back. I got a lot of notes. I didn't read that book for fucking one show.
Yeah, you're usually a bit more demanding. It's not as.
I'm glad you enjoyed it so much.
I'm floored that he actually read the whole thing. This might be the ultimate compliment. Like we held Sevan's attention for all 13 chapters.
I don't know.
Hey.
I don't know if I buy it.
You think he just read the first 4 pages of every chapter?
Look at in page 103. Look at my son came over. You can see on my Instagram.
By the way, you missed this part, Matt. This was my proof copy, meaning it was the first physical manifestation I ever received of the book. He asked to borrow it. I was like, sure. And then the other night, he's like, I took notes. I was like, whoa, you're writing in my book? That's your book now.
I might still.
And that's when she over the table punched
Chris,
you.
did you have fun?
No.
Yeah.
Tell us how great we are.
100%. You guys are great.
Honestly, I thought we had the most episodes for a CrossFit podcast or fitness flavored podcast out there.
You're doing one a week consistently.
Yeah, we do.
You are consistent.
What are we at, Eric?
So what's funny is we talked to I don't know if you know this guy would be a cool guy to have on. His name's Brian Call. He does the Gritty Bowman.
He does the what?
It's a podcast called the Gritty Bowman, and it's geared toward hunters. He's like killing it. I think like 1 million downloads per episode. And he told me he's like one of the reasons like when I started doing the podcast, he's like, hey, you should just consistency is huge. He said even if it's the same person. If you find a good like co-host or someone to talk to, it can help a ton.
The Gritty Bowman.
And he does CrossFit.
Just got to find a good co-host.
He does. I'm
a staple.
So. Yeah, he's really.
You're stand-in until we find a co-host.
Eric, land the plane.